Our village in Kenya was peaceful, nestled between lush grasslands and thick forests. Life was simple, and we all knew each other. But one fateful day, our world turned upside down. An enemy tribe attacked us. They came with spears, arrows, and a fierce determination to take what wasn't theirs. The night was filled with screams and the sounds of battle. The enemy tribe raided our homes, looting and setting fires. The chaos was overwhelming. Many villagers were hurt and some were taken away. It was a dark time when we all felt helpless. Among those caught in the violence was Amani, the chief's daughter. Amani was loved by everyone for her kindness and beauty. Seeing her family's anguish only added to the village's pain. Her father, the chief, was devastated but knew he had to act quickly to stop further bloodshed. The chief summoned Juma, the leader of the enemy tribe, for a meeting. Juma was known for his strength and fierce reputation. The village's hope rested on this meeting. The chief needed to find a way to end the violence. He made a desperate decision, hoping it would bring peace to our people. The chief met Juma under an old baobab tree, surrounded by warriors from both sides. The atmosphere was tense. Juma, sitting proudly, had an air of confidence. The chief, on the other hand, was worried, his face lined with stress. After a long discussion, they reached an agreement. Amani would marry Juma. The chief believed this marriage would unite the tribes and prevent further conflict. It was a painful choice, but he felt it was the only way to save his people from more suffering. Amani's heart sank when she heard the news. The thought of marrying the leader of the tribe that had attacked her village was unbearable. She knew that refusing might lead to more bloodshed, but the prospect of being forced into this marriage was a personal nightmare. Her friends and family tried to comfort her, but their words felt hollow. The decision was made, and there was no turning back. The village prepared for the wedding with heavy hearts, knowing this was not a joyful occasion. As the days passed, Amani's fear grew. She moved through the village like a ghost, her usual bright demeanor replaced by a deep sadness. Her friends tried to offer words of encouragement, but nothing seemed to lift her spirits. One evening, I saw her sitting by the river, staring at the flowing water. I was just a child then, but I felt her pain deeply. I approached her cautiously, unsure of what to say. Amani looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to go," she whispered. "I don't want to marry him." Her voice was choked with sorrow. We sat in silence, the only sound being the gentle rush of the river. I couldn't find the words to comfort her, so we simply shared that quiet moment. Her sadness was palpable, and I could see how deeply this marriage affected her. She was leaving behind everything she loved for a future she had not chosen. Her fear and sadness were a reflection of the larger pain felt by the entire village. The preparations for the wedding were underway, but there was no excitement. The village worked quietly, each task done with a sense of duty rather than joy. The usual festive decorations were sparse, replaced by a somber mood. Amani's family tried to maintain a brave face, but their worry was evident. The village gathered to help with the preparations, but the atmosphere was heavy with sorrow. The wedding was meant to be a celebration, but instead it felt like a grim formality. As the day approached, everyone could feel the weight of the situation. Amani's friends helped her prepare, but their conversations were hushed, their laughter absent. The village knew that this marriage was not a joyous event but a means to an end. The sense of dread was palpable. Everyone understood that the chief's decision was made out of fear and desperation, and it cast a long shadow over the preparations. There was no escaping the feeling that something was wrong. The night before the wedding was unusually quiet. The village was still, as if holding its breath. The rain began to fall lightly, adding to the somber mood. Amani was restless, unable to sleep. I slipped out of my house, drawn by a sense of unease. I found Amani sitting outside under the stars, her face tear-streaked and eyes filled with despair. I approached her gently, knowing words would offer little comfort. Amani looked at me, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want to go through with this," she said. "I don't want to leave my home." Her words were filled with a deep sadness that cut through the night air. We sat together in silence, the only sounds being the distant rumble of thunder and the soft patter of rain. It was a moment of shared sadness, a small connection in the midst of a painful situation. I wished I could do more to help her, but all I could offer was my presence. The wedding day arrived with a heavy cloud cover and light rain. The village gathered for the ceremony, but there was no sense of celebration. The usual festive decorations were missing, replaced by a quiet, somber mood. Amani walked down the path to the altar with a heavy heart. Her face was pale and her steps were slow. She glanced back at the village, hoping for a last-minute change. But the path was set and there was no turning back. Juma waited at the altar, looking strong and proud. He seemed unaware of the true cost of this marriage. The ceremony was brief and quiet. The vows were exchanged with a sense of formality rather than joy. The atmosphere was thick with the weight of unspoken fears. Amani was handed over to Juma, and the village watched in silence. There were no cheers or celebrations, only a quiet acknowledgement of the painful reality. The wedding was over, but the sense of dread lingered. After the ceremony, Amani left with Juma for his village. The village watched as she was taken away, their faces reflecting the sorrow and worry that everyone felt. It was a grim departure, a symbolic end to a difficult chapter in our lives. Juma's village was different from ours. It was larger and more bustling, but it lacked the warmth of our small community. Amani arrived as a stranger in a new land, and her discomfort was evident. The villagers were curious but not unkind, and Amani struggled to find her place. She missed her home and felt isolated. The people in Juma's village were not familiar with her ways or customs. Her spirit seemed to diminish with each passing day. Despite Juma's efforts to make her feel welcome, she remained distant and unhappy. The promise of peace that the marriage was supposed to bring did not materialize. The tensions between the tribes remained, and the sense of unease continued to hover over both villages. Life in Juma's village was challenging for Amani. She found it hard to adapt to a new way of life and felt a constant sense of loneliness. Her new home was different in every way, and she struggled to fit in. Juma, despite being a powerful leader, could not make Amani happy. The marriage, meant to bring peace, only added to her sadness. The village's attempts to include her were well-meaning but insufficient to ease her pain. As time passed, Amani's situation became more difficult. She missed her family, her friends, and the familiarity of her old village. The connection she once had with her community was gone, replaced by a sense of displacement and loss. The dream of peace that had motivated the marriage seemed elusive. The tensions between the tribes continued, and Amani's unhappiness only served to deepen the rift between them. The marriage had not brought the harmony that was hoped for. Months after the wedding, a terrible sickness spread through both villages. The illness was severe and seemed to affect everyone. People fell ill and many died. The once bustling villages were now filled with grief and fear. The elders spoke of curses and angry spirits. They believed the sickness was a punishment for the forced marriage. The plague was seen as a consequence of the deal made in desperation and fear. The suffering was immense. The villages were in turmoil, and the idea of peace seemed even more distant. The illness had taken a heavy toll on both tribes, and the hope that the marriage would resolve the conflict was now a distant memory. Amani's own health was affected by the stress and isolation. She fell ill and her condition worsened. The plague had claimed many lives, and her own seemed to be slipping away. The marriage had not only failed to bring peace but had also contributed to the suffering of many. Years later, Amani's story is still remembered in our village. Her tale is a reminder of the consequences of decisions made out of fear and desperation. The marriage that was meant to bring peace had only led to more suffering. Her story serves as a lesson about the importance of understanding and respect. The decision to force a marriage in the hopes of ending conflict had far-reaching effects. It showed that true peace cannot be achieved through such means. Whenever I think of Amani, I remember her sadness and the heavy price paid for the chief's decision. Her spirit seems to linger, a reminder of the past and a guide for the future. Her story continues to be a part of our village's history, a poignant reminder of the cost of forcing peace. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please subscribe, like and comment.